All right, here we go. So welcome. It is another Hot Topic Tuesday, February 21st is where we are at. Go ahead. And today we are going to talk manufactured modular and what's the difference. So the easiest thing to do is first off, hopefully you've got your paper out in front of you and you're going to be able to take some great notes. Okay. Because we're gonna, I've done a little bit of research to the MLS. So we're going to take a look at the few of the listings that are out there, but we got to define manufactured and modular, knowing what the difference is between the two homes and those descriptions. So let's take a manufactured. In simplest terms, it is a house built on a trailer with the trailer being part of the house. So if you will, there's metal. The trailer is part of the construction of the home. Now, we know mobile home, and typically we see those are like 12 feet wide or 14 feet wide, whatever it is. And it's a single wide, and we know those as mobile homes, but that's also a manufactured home. What we're really dealing with most of the time in real estate is the double wide manufactured home. So when you think of manufactured, think of a mobile home. We all know that the trailer is part of the construction. When it comes to a manufactured home, most of the time that we deal with, we are dealing with a manufactured home, double wide, trailer part of the construction. Now, a modular, if you will, take the first part, modules. Typically, when you hear modular, what we think of is a stick-built home constructed in a factory. Typically, it is in either halves or quarters. Yes, quarters, because you can have a two-story modular, in which case they build each portion of it in a factory, stick-built, put it on a trailer it to site, pull it off of the trailer, and set it down on a permanent foundation. Now, that's really the homes themselves. Now, let's look at it from a different direction. A modular home becomes real property when it's pulled off the trailer and set down on a permanent foundation. Permanent foundation is part of the dirt. The lot is real property. Therefore, the foundation becomes real property. When the home's set down on it, permanently affixed, it becomes real property. Let's take this a different direction. Manufactured home. A manufactured home comes with a title. Just like you have a title for your car, if any of you have a travel trailer, you have title. Well, this manufactured housing has title, same way that your travel trailer does, the same way that your car, your truck, your boat, you have title to those items. Can a manufactured home become a part of the property and thus go from being personal property to real property? Yes. And that's a part of retiring the title. And that's something I would tell you that if you have to run through this, if you are going to sell a manufactured excuse me. For those who know, my voice has recovered slightly. If you're going to sell a manufactured home, it has to be on real property. And I'm going to say the best thing that I believe we could do is to retire the title by filing an affidavit of fixture. Affidavit, AFFIDAVIT, affidavit of fixture. Otherwise, we're retiring title and we're making a statement that this manufactured home is being permanently affixed to the real property. Thus, it becomes real property. There is a process for that to happen. If you have to go through all of that, make sure you're working with a title company that understands and can guide you on that. All right. So here's one thing to know. Can we sell manufactured homes that are not affixed or a portion of the sale of real property? Can we sell manufactured homes that are not part of a transaction dealing with real property? In simplest terms, you are correct, Marjorie. No, we cannot do that. A manufactured home, there has to be a manufactured home broker. Just like we have real estate brokers, the big difference is that a manufactured home broker, their salespeople do not have to be licensed. So if you see one in the MLS and it is not on land, then you need to make sure that the person who's listed that property is or working for a manufactured home broker. All right. We in our companies cannot list manufactured homes. They're in a park. We cannot do it. Okay. So let's do this. Let me just say, any questions so far?
Yes. So I'm a city girl and I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So if you, I'm working with a client right now who wants to buy something up north, it's on a lake, and she shared with me that it was a double wide trailer. I haven't seen it yet, but that's all I know. So now I'm thinking, like, is it a manufactured home or is it a modular home?
I would tell you, Lydia, that if the term double wide is being used and I were a betting man, I would bet that that's a manufactured home. Okay. I would just about count on that. And oh, by the way, you could probably call the listing agent and they may not know.
Wow. So I did call the listing agent, and which is really weird. So he told me that he had entered into a contract with the seller and it was coming to market, but it wasn't on the market yet for another couple of weeks. And I'm thinking, if he's signed paperwork with the seller, how can he hold it for 2 weeks? Because he's got to do some work with it. So I'm wondering, like,
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, because that's a shift in gears. Just let me say that if he's done it right, he could legally do that, because I could have everything signed, but the contract not start for 2 weeks.
okay.
So, well, let me then keep moving on. I'm going to share my screen here, and not the one I want. I want this one right here. Open up for me. That's great. Just show me the pictures. See if all the photos were there for me earlier. Okay. Yeah. Now, gang, this is a pretty nice property. And I want you to tell me, as you look at these photos, just from the first few here, modular, manufactured, or a regular home? Of course, that's the barn. Here we go. Now we're on the inside. Modular, manufactured, or a regular home?
Manufactured.
I hear a manufactured vote.
I vote regular.
Oh, I hear regular. Okay, I need one modular vote.
Modular.
Hey, there we go. Thanks, Martha. Guys, this actually, believe it or not, is a modular home. Because when you get down to it, there's not a whole lot of any indication with the pictures that I've shown you to this being, it's a horse farm, by the way, but for this being a modular home, there's no real indication. But I'll tell you, in this picture, there is one thing that gives you an indication that this could be a modular home. Anybody guess what that would be? We're all peeking over here. You want to peek too, Rachel?
The ceiling beam?
Wow, I'm going to say that in some videos would be a possibility. Can you see my cursor, the little finger pointing? See this center wall? This is what they call the marriage wall in either a manufactured double wide or a modular home. It's a marriage wall. The typical construction is 2 halves with 2x3 plus more than likely a 1/2 inch sheet of OSB 4x8, and then they bring the 2 parts together. So your standard wall 2x4, which is 3.5 inches wide, add 2 1/2 inch sheets of drywall, and you're at 4.5 inches wide where this would be. This actually is probably going to be closer to 6 to 7 inches wide where that marriage wall comes together. And I'll show you, matter of fact, let me see if I can pull that up here real quick. Gonna do, there we go. And I want this. Let me find my picture that I want to get you close. So when you said the ceiling, this is a home where it's got, we'll call it cathedral ceilings. And this is where the 2 halves would come together. And it's an open area that in this particular one goes from the living room to the dining area. And here you can see this is not the normal width that I just described. The reason being is same thing. You got a 2x3 and a 2x3, not to mention that 1/2 inch and that 1/2 inch. And then of course they've got to cover that joint up at that point. Let me show you another one. This is the marriage wall for going from a hallway into a bedroom. And it's hard to tell what the actual width of this is until you compare it to this. So here's your standard door where you'll see it. But see, this door is not going through where the 2 marriage walls come together. This one is. So what I would tell you is to just, when you're in a home, you're going, is this a manufactured or a modular? Look at the marriage wall. Typically the center of where the 2 halves will come together. In anywhere where there's a pass through, especially if it's a door, you're going to find that that's probably 7 inches or so wide. And just again, that much wider than normal door.
Gentlemen,
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I got a question. I have very limited familiarity with some of this stuff, but I've heard a lot of people in the past talk about a HUD plate. Would a
Yes.
HUD plate be on a manufacturer and on a modular, or just one?
You know what, John? The HUD plate is going to be on a manufactured. Typically, that is on the tongue. Otherwise, that V that actually attaches to the tow vehicle, it's normally on there, somewhere on that metal frame, typically at the front of one of the halves, if not on both. And that actually is an important piece when it comes to retiring title. And that's where you're going to want to get your title company involved. A modular home will have a sticker. And normally that sticker is in the closet entry or the entry closet. It's going to be inside there. You may also find them under the kitchen sink, but it's BOCA. That's what it's, the BOCA sticker. Basically, it's a building code that says this property will fit in any state. So that BOCA sticker will be for a modular home.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, what we're looking at here, guys, is the modular. This is what you can do to be able to tell. Now, let me just go through these pictures because then
I have a quick question.
Yes, go ahead, Lydia.
Is the HUD, does the HUD plate have anything to do with HUD?
I don't believe so. It's just more for the aspect of the code and how that they're actually constructed.
Okay.
Good question. All right. So these again are just now pictures of, I won't call it typical, but the point of construction. If we all have looked up at a house when we're in a basement, you don't see the floor joists going into the, I'll call it faceplate, and pardon me, I forgot my construction verbiage, but typically your floor joists are setting on top of a center brace. So if this were the brace, if you look at my hand, if that's the brace, the floor joist would then be overlapping that and sitting on it. Well, in the case of the modular, you're going to see it going directly into that face board, rim board. That's another one of them. That'll come to me. Anyway, it's going directly into that. So instead of setting on top, it's going in. And then what you'll have, how it is supported, is the same way. And this, again, just your standard support post in a basement. But now it's on all of those that have been joined together. And again, this is in the center of the home. This happens to be one where, again, you can see that that floor joist is nailed directly into, and they do this little notch out in this particular one to where it actually gives it something additional to be able to hang on. Okay. And by the way, what's the difference between a manufactured or excuse me, a modular? Well, modular gets pulled down the expressway at 65 miles per hour for hundreds of miles. Do you think you could do that with a home that was built on site? So when people say, is there really a concern with a modular home? No. As a matter of fact, I can tell you, I own one. And again, as you take a look at this one, you can tell that it's difficult to identify this from a standard stick-built on-site home. Now, here's this on the basement. I think we've got another one that will show a little bit better for us. But you can see this actually used floor trusses with the way that they built it. And again, supported over the center with the steel I-beams in this case. But again, now they're resting on top of the way that they did the particular design of this one. Let me then make an adjustment here. Let's go to another one. We're going to cycle through a couple here. This one should be fairly easy. What type do we have here?
Manufactured.
Manufactured.
And actually, this is an easy one. I don't know if it's that clear for you, but what do you see right here? The wheels are still on this one.
The axles.
Yeah, the wheels, the tires, the axles, they're still here. You can see that it's not set down on a permanent foundation, but I want to show you, this one's actually in a park. But this will give you some telltales of a manufactured home. Now, the most obvious in a manufactured, you'll see these little strips where it's covering the joint, most likely of some form of drywall. Okay, and I say some form of drywall. What that's for is so that as the home is pulled down the road, it allows it, if you will, for, well, it'd be more like this, but those two sheets of drywall sitting next to each other to be able to move during that trip. So instead of actually having finished drywall, they do this. Now, here's another one. You will very, very commonly see in a manufactured, these, we'll call it corner molding, all the way around the ceiling. Same reason. So that it's got the flexibility as it's going down the road. Now, here's one more that is a telltale sign. The distance with the windows from the top of the window to the ceiling. You'll also quite often see that even the bottom of the window to the floor, they're very narrow because you don't always have the same ceiling height. And often they put the cathedral into these, very low pitched roof. So for them to be able to pass, this wall is very short. So instead of being an 8-foot ceiling, it might be a 7-foot ceiling. And here's what I'm referring to. Here's a cathedral ceiling. You got that corner molding all the way around. And again, look at the gap. Now, why have I got a little bit, if I were just looking at this and going, this is not a modular, and not quite the same thickness right here at these marriage walls. You'll also see quite often the quality of the material that they use in construction is less. Not much out. Oh yeah, the old bathroom. This is always a big sale because a lot of people would buy a bathroom and get a whole manufactured home thrown into it. So the nice garden tub, it looks really slick and everything. They're, you know, great sized bathrooms, but this is what they would sell. But again, here's that strip. Quite often these were a lower quality. I'm going to tell you that since 2000, they really started building them up. Of course, then there was pretty much a halt on everything until 2010. But nowadays, a manufactured home may be difficult to be able to tell because they're no longer using the cheap materials necessarily. Okay, but you can just tell some of the doors. Just if I could zoom in on that, I'd be able to show you even the hinge. You'll see it's not your standard hinge in regards to the door. Again, there's that distance to the ceiling. Bathroom, not bad. Let me take you to the next one here. Anybody guess right off the bat, just from that one picture? Manufactured. Even though, look at this, you got a permanent foundation. We're going to start looking. See here again, short distance. Boy, but it doesn't have those strips in this one. Oh, there we go. There's our indicator. And again, look at the distance from the window to the floor. And it's hard to tell in the photos, but when you see them and you start looking for these identifiers, it will become more and more obvious to you. Bathroom probably upgraded, it looks like. Again, kind of difficult to tell. Quite often, you'll see plastic pipe versus copper or PVC. I should say copper or the PEX. That was an upgraded one. Even hard to tell. You got an arch in here. But this, again, gives you that idea, because you can tell by them building this directly up, that's probably just hit that aspect of being the manufactured home. Let me move to another one.
So Darwin.
Yes.
So once it's attached to a foundation, and so all we need to do is check to see if it's got a affidavit of fixture.
Affidavit of fixture that the title's been retired. And this is important that, and we're going to be talking about this within the next couple of weeks. PreTitle. When you're in doubt, order PreTitle. If it's a manufactured home, it will actually say that there is an affidavit of a fixture. So that's what you would look for. But PreTitle should give you the answer.
But you still sell it as a manufactured?
Yeah, it's a manufactured with land. And one of the things that you would do is to say that, it's the title's retired, that it is, there is an affidavit of a fixture. Yep. Because anybody in the know would want to know that that is the circumstance.
And we can sell it at that point?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Now, you're probably going to have to do it with FHA financing. So not everybody wants to deal with a manufactured home. Even though it's now real property, they just don't want to deal with it because it's at a different quality. There are some, if they find out a home is a modular, they won't want to deal with it either because they don't understand. But yes, we can sell them once it is, even, by the way, even if it's still personal property, but we're selling the land upon which it sits. That just creates a little bit more, and you're going to have to deal with whatever a lender wants, but I would have to guess that they're going to require that at that point that the title be retired and that a affidavit of a fixture exists.
So why do you have to retire the title? I don't understand that part.
Well, retiring the title is to make it no longer personal property. It's to say that it's no longer personal property because that's what the title is. It's again, if you've ever looked at your car, you got a title.
Okay.
That's what so title, different from real estate, real property title.
Okay.
It's different when it's personal property title.
Manufactured home has a VIN number.
Basically, yes.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So does that mean that a title company will be able to tell exactly what's going on with the property when you do PreTitle?
When you do an affidavit of a fixture, yes. Because now you're improving the real property. So beyond a septic tank, beyond a well, beyond a driveway, that now becomes real property. Your taxes will go up. Yep. Let me show you this one because we're right at 12:30. I think it's important to know. Now, this is a 2-story, and I'm going to tell you this is a modular home. But just looking at it, we really wouldn't be able to tell. So when I get into this home, how do I know if an agent, or even as a listing agent, guys, these things can fool you, yet we need to know that it's a modular home, because I would dare say that someday you're going to run into somebody who doesn't know that they bought a modular. And I'll tell you, in this picture, you can tell the potential of this one being a modular. How can you tell? I'll drag slowly
The
to
wall
where
is
it's
wider.
at. The marriage wall,
Hmm.
where the 2 sheets come together, the two halves, in this case, the 4 quarters. But this would be the first floor where the 2 halves come together. Most likely, I've not been in this home, but you can tell by the width of this supporting wall and this to where it's like, yep, that would be the first thing I would do. Is to
The
be
windows on the outside don't have dimension either.
What's that again, boss?
The windows on the outside don't have dimension, they're flush.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you, they can. I mentioned my home is a modular home. We actually have a section in the living room that's a 1 foot, I guess, what do you call it, bump out? It's not a bay window, because you can have those, but even this one has this little extension here that didn't show for some reason. But yeah, you'll often see that they can be pretty plain, and yet look at the inside of this house. You could easily never guess, especially with it being a 2-story, that this is a modular home.
What about the quality?
Quality.
Manufactured home as good as one that's built on site?
Yeah, so the question comes up as to what about the quality? I would tell you that often the modular should be at approximately the same quality as that of a home built on site, but could be less, could be more, higher quality or lower quality, just depending upon the builder and what the homeowner decided that they wanted to put into it. So, but yeah, still, I think manufactured housing has come way up in regards to the quality that they put into it. But I mean, it used to be that they'd have plastic fixtures, plastic wood, plastic covered wood, very little paint. And again, here you see that this was built to go down the road at 65 miles per hour, and yet it's got fully completed drywall. Reason being is that quite often they will do on all exterior walls a 1/2 inch OSB, and then on the interior 1/4 inch OSB. And when I say interior, the interior of the exterior wall. So they're solidly built, and more often than not, they were also built with 2x6 exterior sidewalls.
So as a consumer, why would I want a modular or manufactured home over a home that's constructed on the site?
So question,
To move it to a particular
yeah,
place.
why would I want a manufactured or a modular over and above one built on site? Probably simple answer, cost, because the modular more than likely will be able to, the manufactured definitely would be less than a modular. A modular figuratively should be less than a on-site. Then after that is to just what level of quality are you putting into the home? But as I put it, one of the biggies, if anybody ever gave me an objection to a modular home, in the quality to it, well, outside of windows, but structurally, don't worry about a modular home structurally. It went down the road at 65 miles per hour to get there. I don't know, you know how, and by the way, that's 65 mile per hour winds plus also, depending on what day it was pulled. So they're built to withstand all of that travel on top of it. But again, this is just one where, again, a modular home, and it's difficult to be able to tell the difference. So guys, I'm going to stop the share and just see what other questions you might have.
So do modular homes have basements? I mean, most of them?
I can't say that most, but I would say my experience is that most modulars do end up on a basement. Most manufacturers end up on a crawl. And oh, by the way, do I have one? Let me see. I think I've got one, guys. Let me do the screen share because I'm pretty sure I pulled one where if we got underneath that manufactured, we'd be able to see. Get the pictures to come up.
While you're doing that, Darwin, so the listing agent needs to identify whether it's a modular and or manufactured.
Yes.
Okay.
It is, at least I can say this, in the Real Comp MLS, there is a field for us to put modular or manufactured. I don't know why we would ever have to disclose that a home is modular. To me, that would scare people. Manufactured, yes, that creates lots of additional issues that it should be disclosed. Well, the reason that this came back up, and what your reason I went back to the share, see all the metal framing? This is the I-beam where the home itself is actually built and constructed. This is all part of the trailer of which the home is actually built onto. So you see these right here, these cross braces between the two I-beams. Then they actually pick it up and settled it down on this one. So this is a manufactured that's put on a basement. And you can see how the trailer in the house that it's built on is setting on these I-beams going across from one half to the other. So this is one half sitting down on these I-beams to be able to hold that whole structure. So the best way, if you ever want to know, confirm whether or not it's a manufactured versus a modular, go underneath. You see I-beams where the house is permanently affixed to it, running the length, not across this way, but running the length. If you see a lot of metal, yeah, you got a manufactured. So that was the one I wanted to make sure that we got to show you. All right.
Darwin, I have a question.
Yes.
Are there any like zoning issues or anything like that? Can you put a modular home in any community?
Yes.
Municipality?
I am not aware of anyone where they restricted it, because if they did that, they'd pretty much have to restrict Pulte Homes from building homes.
Oh.
Is it not really constructed in a manufacturing plant? And the answer is yes. They build all their walls and they simply assemble it on site. So it's actually, when you get down to it, Pulte Homes are modular. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, Holly, I think we answered your questions there. I watch a guy on YouTube that does mostly manufactured home tours of new homes and manufactured. There are some nice homes. Yeah. So I would definitely tell you, there are some very nice manufactured housing now. Don't stray away from them. But remember, the key is we sell dirt and everything that's permanently affixed to it. And once it's permanently affixed to it, it becomes real property. And that's the reason that we could sell a manufactured home where it's part of the transaction. So guys, if we don't have any other questions, we're going to call that a wrap. We all good? All right, I see everybody waving, so I'm going to say we'll see you later. Another Hot Topic Tuesday in the books. Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.